you all see the title, I'm gonna give you a full transparent testimonial. We're gonna talk about how as a channel we generated over I say that again, how we made over $60,000 in a 3 to 4 month time span with these four key things that allowed us to create those results and really just share the thought process and the mindset to everyone. But before we get into number one, let's talk about how it happened. Let's be as real as possible. So it was about around the time when the channel started last year. The channel's been going on for almost a year, just about. So going on 11 months. It'll be 11 months tomorrow, actually. So we're still new, if believe it or not. We're still relatively new, but it was August last year. It was during the NBA bubble play-in situation thing, and it started off with a 14 parlay. For those who don't know what that is basically a multiplying wager where you have, with the 14, you have at least 4 units that you're wagering at the same time. And truth be told, it was a $600 wager, and the payout was a times 12. So that 600 turned into 72. It paid out 72. You add it together, that's 78. And then on top of that, I believe it was a $100 or $200 wager that did the exact same thing. But all in all, that first weekend was about an $8,200 return, which is pretty, what created a nice sizable bankroll to work with. And then just following that philosophy, some of the teams that we leverage are actually a team that's in the NBA Finals right now. That was Phoenix, it was Dallas, it was Milwaukee, and it was Denver. So I take that back. Two of those teams are actually in right now, and what we went with the over. We went with a 4-team parlay with every single over for those matchups with the Suns, the Bucks, the Mavs, and the Nuggets. All right, and times 12 payout. That ad right there had a times 12 payout. And that's real right there, and that is compounded. Obviously, we didn't make too many, risky wagers from that point. We kind of compounded our growth in the air. That was the NBA playoff bubble right there, and then that led into the NFL. And I told everybody in September how the NFL was going to be phenomenal. You had teams that surprised people, like in terms of the point spreads, the money lines, and even the game total. So it was one parlay in particular, and I believe the wager was a couple $100. It was a couple $100, and this was a crazy weekend. I think this was a 6-team parlay, and the only deciding factor were my Chicago Bears coming through in the clutch. I believe that was week 4, if I'm not mistaken. But that payout right there was about $10,000. So did about $10,000 in one day, and then had some some bubbling wagers happen throughout the month of September, August, and October. All right, and that right there accumulated to well over $65,000 in winnings. $65,000 in winnings. I think total that was wagered during that time frame couldn't have been more than like $10,000 to $12,000. So that's a hell of a return on investment. See, it was done with these 4 components that we're about to break down right now, but want to give you like the lay of the land, a little framework on how it all came about and how you can benefit from it as well. Because as we're going into the late summer, into the early fall, the timing is perfect, and that leads us to our first component: timing. Timing was everything. Timing was everything in terms of the options that were available, the sports that were available. And during that time frame, you had the NBA and you had the NFL. So you had some good teams, sizable matchups, and that right there was big. Timing, being able to have as many options available, creating a 14 parlay, maybe using 1 or 2 different sports at the time, is not as complicated, not as risky as you may think. You may only just end up going with 2 of the top strongest wagers or strongest units for each respective sports. For me, that was the NFL and the NBA, and what that did right there was create the compound effect of where we were able to steamroll. I think in August we were able to accumulate well over $20,000 in that first month. Cash that out in September, it was $29,000, and then in October it was around $15,000. So if you do the math on that, it's right around $65,000, and which is kind of funny because I know a lot of people that have the Bet Online sportsbook platform that we leverage. I know a lot of people talk about being in that jail where you have to wager at least $1,000 or $2,000 to receive a payout. For me, it was $30,000. 29,997 to be exact. So 30K basically on the dot is what I had to wager in order to receive a payout. So those that have those high payout, number two was experience. All right, so I'm 33 years old. Me and a couple of my boys, you already know the plug. Back in the day, we started doing this while we were coming like out of college, while we were getting into that first year of professional work. I was 23 at the time. Okay, so 10 years. 10 years of experience, not a here today, going tomorrow, like, a fly by night type of person that got lucky, and and just sharing, just pure luck. Not at all. If anything, we're sharing experience. And with experience there comes research, there comes trial and error. All right, and we're gonna talk about that in a little bit. But with that experience, I've experienced the hurt. I've experienced the L's. I experienced the putting the $50 on a or $800 on a two-team parlay that didn't pay out. It would have paid out 2,400. I remember this exactly. I remember it was Duke and Miami college football. I'll never forget. I'll never forget. It should have been an easy one right there. Would have turned $2,400 out of 800, and that time would have been my highest payout. But of course, that didn't happen. Lost that 800. So definitely the trial and error, the ebbs and flows with experience allowed you to become not just a more proficient student, but hopefully an effective teacher. Obviously I developed a teachable spirit during that time frame because you got to learn what to look for. You can't just wager on everything. You can't just wager on anything. You really got to see like what makes sense, and that really played a factor when I looked at those 14 parlays with the Mavs, the Suns, the Bucks, and the Nuggets. Those games were going over. There was a lot of high scoring in the NBA. Number three, strategy. Okay, for those that are subscribed to the Patreon or that downloaded the Playbook app, that is straight thought process. That is strategy. That is a decade of experience. We're using metrics from websites like ESPN.com, iChart.com to allow us to basically look at the analytics and determine what will be a preferred outcome. And been doing that for years. I say that again because it's important. Sometimes you just can't go on a whim and like, for example, like for today's for this time frame's NBA finals, reason why I'm rolling with Phoenix is because I've been rolling with Phoenix since the bubble. They went 8-0 in the bubble, so that was a good compound effect with that team. All right, the Milwaukee Bucks, as some of you all may know, this is like we've done videos on them because they've come up short so many times, especially when they've been, placed as the heavy favorite. They've lost when they've been at 1,000 or 1,200 on the money line, and they've been upset. That's in the bubble too. So it's just like learn from that mistake to definitely in the finals not putting any money on Milwaukee. All right, but what have I done so far? Those that subscribe to the Patreon, if you haven't, the link's down there below. Have fun with it all. But the constant variables have been the Suns money line, or the Bucks and Suns over, or the adjusted over. Okay, so not too different from what we were doing a year ago to create the results that we had back then. Still creating those results today and helping other people do the exact same thing. So strategy is always key. Okay, and then lastly, consistency. Being consistent, knowing that you're not going to win every single time, but you can get better over time to the point where even, like 5-10 years ago, we were not hitting at a 70% or above, win percentage. And to today's time, we're always around that 75 to 80% win percentage because we use strategy. We don't wager every single day. We don't make every single wager. We don't try to bet the house on everything. We definitely prioritize bankroll management. So if you were to take an L, it doesn't hurt your feelings. All right. lot of people are emotionally tied to the money for a reason that we all can understand. So because of that, you want to be smart with your investment. This is the difference between an investor and a risk taker or gambler. You could be a gambler in every single market: crypto, stock market, real estate, business, sports. But if those that are experienced that become investors because they know when the market's right, they know what to invest in, and they know how to invest from a system that allows them to just use a portion of their bankroll to create a substantial amount and just compound the profits over time. So even when you take your expected losses every now and then, you're not hurt, you're not bankrupt, and that right there prevents less losses and creates more wins. All right. So to wrap a bow on this all right here, to wrap it all up, the components, the four components that allowed us to create that success. Remember, over 60 grand, 65K in a 4-month period. Okay, between August, September, October, and November. I think November was just probably a couple $1,000 because kind of the tear off. Didn't want to wager on everything because, again, when you have so many options and you take some L's, you will try to make other wagers to cover your losses, and that right there can create a negative downward spiral effect, and that's not what you want. All right, I promise you that is not what you want. But you want to be able to take the time to gain the experience, right? Implement a strategy, man, and then be consistent. All right, that right there kind of covers it up. Timing, experience, strategy, and consistency. Being consistent over the years, you're going to develop more IQ than you could imagine, and therefore your win percentage will be boom, 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 through the roof. Okay, it will be maybe around that 30 to 40% range, but over time, it will create itself to a point. It will create itself to a point where you're winning 70% of the time, 80% of the time, and you can ask around. You can look at our results. You can look at our Patreon. You can look at our past picks, and the proof is in the pudding. We just don't make random selections. We with strategy take a objective look. We're not tied to a team. We're not tied to our favorite teams when it comes to taking an objective look at what we're working with, and then from there we make the best decision to implement a proper wager, a proper bet. Straight bet philosophy, the parlay method. Like I'm telling you, like, you have so many tools available right now in today's day and age that were not available 5 to 10 years ago. So my advice would be to leverage it. No, not a financial advisors, but we do have specialized experience in the financial lending services. So we have some fruit on the tree. And of course, the results speak for themselves. But again, hopefully that added value to you all. Been waiting to get this to you all. But truth be told, this video took 10 years in the making. All right. And again, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. We'll holler at you all next time. Peace. Okay.